Maurice, how are you?
Yo, what's up, Greg? How are you, man?
Good, man. Pleasure to meet you. So I'm here with Maurice Compte, a star, executive producer of this really awesome film called Dominique. I see so many action thrillers, and it's very hard. I enjoy a lot of them, but it's very hard for me to say something really stands out. And without giving too much away, this movie was a complete standout for me. Was it a standout for you when you read the script, and was that one of the reasons why you were excited to be part of this project?
Yeah, I knew it was a lot to it was going to be a lot to put together. But Mike definitely showed me at our meeting that he had the capacity to be able to put it together, given the resources that we had, which is really what makes independent film so magical. Is that you're kind of doing it with one hand tied behind your back, and when things like that come together, there has to be kind of like there's this magical aspect that really makes you feel just really connected in a different way. It's easy to make a film and make it work when you have the resources that you need, but when you have just enough resources and not one iota beyond that, and you really got to know how you're managing your stuff, and you can do it and make it feel abundant, then you really have something special. And that's how I felt with Mike.
Maurice, you're a successful actor, but what drove you to be also a producer? What drives that lane for you, that passion on that road?
Same thing that drives me with acting, my love of storytelling. I love being able to tell stories, and I love to be able to kind of bring messages to people, and kind of reflect to them different aspects of themselves and different aspects of society, and give things people to relate to. As an actor, starting off on stage, it was the feeling of not wanting to feel connected to people, of having people wanting to feel connected to me, but still kind of be in their own bubble, but not feel alone. I mean, the theater used to be a very communal act. We used to go as a community to theater. We used to go as a community. I think that shifted away, but I think that you can still watch people performing and still feel that something in yourself is being drawn to something. And when it calls you to do something greater than what you are, that's that's a more positive aspect. I know that a lot of the times I play the heavy, and it's difficult to say, but like, I'm not a heavy in a vacuum. I'm normally juxtaposed against somebody that is there to highlight something within themselves that they should be kind of focused in on, in their own being and in their own life.
You play the heavy, but in a lot of your roles, but in this role, the heavy is, to me, as a cinephile, I thought it was a very layered character. Can you speak to that? Because I really love the depth of your character. It's not just a straight evil character on a surface level, which you can enjoy as escapist fare, but I think there was more to it with that. Or am I overreading on this?
No, I don't think you are. I think that with some of this stuff, it's like, I think the big lesson for, Chief Santiago was not to overestimate your opponent. I mean, not to underestimate your opponent. I think that's what he did. He should have overestimated his opponent, and he would have been in a better position. But he was very relaxed. He's used to things running a certain way. A person comes in, this kind of stuff happens. It's crazy, but it's not the craziest thing that's ever happened in the beginning. It just continues to devolve for him into something less and less manageable for him. And I think that in the beginning, it's just business as usual, and then it becomes less and less of that. I think, again, people tend to normally underestimate women. And if UFC has taught us anything, is that women can kick some serious ass. you know so
Speaking, speaking of kicking serious ass and being underestimated, in the last several years, you've worked with Ojeda, John Swab, Isaac Florentine. You mentioned indie filmmaking. Can you just speak to the fact that you're just more, these are just top of the line filmmakers who I think are just under the radar because it's an indie film where people will say, oh, it's a B action movie, but there's just so much stuff that each of these filmmakers bring. And I think they're just all qualified artists. You're working with them on a day-to-day basis. What's that like for you?
I think if we look at the state of film today, and television today, they overextended themselves so much. A lot of these studios, and they thought that they could make infinite amount of programs with infinite amount of budgets, and I think the audience started becoming like lackadaisical. It was just, I think, again, what makes theater so amazing is that there's a level of richness, but there's also a level where you have to kind of get involved because it's not all there. It's not like it's a set and it's on stage, but it can't be moved. And so you have to employ a bit of yourself as an audience member, and it helps you to feel immersed. Like, we get into this thing where we're being spoon fed everything with these giant budgets. And I think that, as wonderful as it is for certain things, when that becomes the norm, I think, the natural tendency is for the pendulum to want to swing in the other direction as well.
Yeah, and these filmmakers do it. And after this, I really want to see Cocaine. What am I going to get from that? And I look at you being a producer on that. That just seems like such a huge task. Was it a huge task, or am I overthinking again? It wasn't as.
Yeah, it's an experience. Like, it was a huge task. It's a story about my dad's life. I wanted to pay homage to my father, but more than telling the story of the actual story of my dad and like Miami, and like there are aspects to it of that for sure. But what I wanted to do is really kind of give people a feeling and take the people that lived through it back to the experience of what it was like to be a Cuban refugee in that time in Miami. The world was at a very specific place. Things were very hot with communism at the time, and being a refugee is very different than being an immigrant. An immigrant comes here for a better life. A refugee cannot go back, or they will be killed. It was Cubans were forced into this scenario. Now, but what we did with it, or what the Cuban community did with it, was what the story is about. Like, that is a story. It's a story about an experience. And I think that ultimately that's all great films are experiences. Even when you're recounting something, when you're only recounting not the reality of what occurred, but whoever it chooses to tell the story. And that is already a skewed view on occurrence. Like, nobody can be 100% factual on anything, because everybody has a lean.
Maurice, I have one quick question. Is just from your resume, can you pick one movie or TV project that you feel is underrated or underseen that you would like our listeners to watch, and what makes it unique for you? And thank you for your time.
Yeah, I think an earlier film that I did was called Dreamcatcher. It's a film that I did early on in my career, but I just watched it a few days ago, and it really holds up the test of time. It's done really well. And if you've already seen it, there's two other films that I've done. One was Fidel with David Atwood, which was the story of like Fidel Castro in the beginning, and it's a very interesting historical piece, as being said by an outsider. Again, it's you can't ever, history is always written by a specific faction. But the other film was a film that I did with a filmmaker by the name of Julian Schnabel, and that was called Before Night Falls, and that was Javier Bardem's first Oscar nomination. And I think it's a film that should be seen and gone to see again. And even a film that I haven't done, which I still watch all the time and I love, is the film Basquiat by the same director, Julian Schnabel. A fascinating film. Jeffrey Wright is in it playing Basquiat, and it's just one of the quintessential films that I really feel like captivate an era. Again, feelings are about creating feelings of experience, and that's what all these films do.
Maurice, thank you so much for your time, and I really love Dominique.
All right. Thank you so much, brother.